All right. Okay, cool. Let's start out with Ravi. Is Scrum the same thing as project management?
No, absolutely not. We just had a session like I was speaking in the other room, but for you, I'll just repeat for one with one difference. It's no answer is no, but why? Because the project management is all about your fixed timelines, fixed scope, fixed budget. So three things which is triangle, that's why it's called iron triangle of project management. If you have that, what happens? Your quality suffers. It's impossible to achieve all three. Why? Because Scrum is meant to work beautifully and I wouldn't say perfectly, but close to perfection in a complex world where more unknowns are there than knowns. So in Scrum, we always one of the parameters is negotiable. So ideally, in your sprint, it's a timeline that is fixed. That's called 2 weeks. Then budget is fixed. Let's say 2 weeks. Your salaries, your AWS costs, that's fixed as well. The only thing that is negotiable there most of the times is the scope, and that's where the sprint planning, your developers pull the work. No one is pushing work. The top level management, if they are pushing work, then it's the wrong. It's a pull framework, not a push framework. So answer is no.
Thank you, Ravi. Thank you, Ravi. And if you have questions, please write them up and give someone to pass them to the front. This is not, we don't have a slide for you, okay? It's a Scrum Clinic, and we're going to answer questions about Scrum. All right? What you've got on the board, on the screen, I'm used to being in the classroom. What you've got on the screen is what I call the mechanics of Scrum. Okay? And I'm going to talk about it. Ravi and Ganesh, I'm going to pull you in. Okay? Essential to Scrum, you've got to have a product. Okay? And a lot of people have talked about products. So, a product, what we define a product is your vehicle for delivering value. So, people do projects and try to do Scrum. It's a good starting point. But to really get the best out of Scrum, you want a product. All right? And the first thing you have is a product backlog. The way we define a product backlog is the list of everything you need to build your product, to create your product. So it doesn't have to be software. If you're doing an event, the list of all you have to do for that event is your product backlog. For the Scrum Day, we had a product backlog. That's the team. We had weekly meetings. That's how we run it. And you have a product backlog. In that product backlog, you have a product goal. What the product goal is the future state of your product. So you sit down as a product owner with your stakeholders and you think about what do we want to create. Let's say in 3 months, in 6 months, I advise my clients, your goal should be between 3 months, no more than 3 months. And that is what drives what goes into your backlog. Yeah. It sets focus for your teams. All right? Does that make sense? Ravi, talk about sprint planning.
So sprint planning, and this is where exactly I will connect the dots, which I said in the past, just a few minutes back, the iron triangle of project management. So what happens in Scrum? The sprint planning, the entire Scrum team participates. So who are the Scrum team? The Scrum Master, Product Owner, and developers. And together, they come and they create a sprint goal for the sprint. As Sam said, there is a product goal. Your product goal is less called like roughly a quarterly goal. To make it easy, it's in a quarter is your product goal. But in 2 weeks' time, what is that small step you are doing to move towards that your quarterly goal, which is the product goal? And that's the sprint goal. And like one of the examples can be make online payments easy. So that might be your sprint goal. And you are pulling the scope now. The developers after that, they pull what that can be done. Remember, pull. The developers are pulling. It's not a push framework, it's a pull framework. And that is what exactly happens in a sprint planning. You plan for that sprint. For example, 2-week sprint, what can be done in that sprint?
Okay.
That's sprint planning for you.
Thank you. Ganesh, let's talk about what happens in a sprint and talk about the daily scrum as well.
Great question, Dan. So it's the simple thing, right? I mean, what happens in daily Scrum? Like, so as Ravi mentioned, we have a sprint goal. We also do something like a daily stand-up where we check at our daily touch point on what small incremental things we are doing every day to reach our sprint goal. For example, if our sprint goal is, as Ravi mentioned, to enable the payments to be better, we should be making some daily progress to ensure that we are reaching the sprint goal. So we have daily stand-up meetings to ensure that we check in on those things. We are really comfortable on what are some of the progress we are doing as a team, what are some of the blockers the team is facing, and how we can effectively collaborate on a daily basis to reach our overall sprint goal here.
All right. Thank you. And I need to clarify this, right? In Scrum, we have what we call a daily Scrum. The daily Scrum is for the developers only. And when I say developers, please don't think programmers. Anyone that is working on your product, if you have an event, everyone working on the event meets every day to plan on a daily basis. You guys are here at Scrum Day. We are daily Scrums. Ask anyone here. Someone from event, from media, coordination, everybody joins a 15-minute call to plan for the day. We don't report status, okay? It's about what do we need to do as a team to move one day closer to our sprint goal. That's what we did for months and months and months, every single day, apart from weekends, even though we did last weekend. But every single day we need to plan for the day. And the idea is that by the end of your sprint, you create an increment. An increment, we call it, Ravi, increment, go on, you talk, increment.
So, example of an increment. Well, let's take a product, we might be using Zoom or Microsoft Teams. So that's a product, let's say it takes 2 years to build a Zoom product. You all know what Zoom is. So Zoom is 2 years. So now your increment is, in the first sprint, let's say you started building the product. Your sprint goal might be having the audio conversation over Wi-Fi. That's your product. That's your product increment for that first sprint. Now let us say the second sprint goal. You may have audio over cellular network, is one example, or it can be video over Wi-Fi. So let's make it video over Wi-Fi now. So you're testing the product on Wi-Fi. The increment for the second sprint would be your audio plus video. The third sprint, you may be using chat. Audio plus video plus chat is your increment. Then breakout rooms. So the increment for you is going iteratively, which is sprint is iteration. So this is audio, then video, chat, breakout rooms. So iterative and incremental is what your product grows, and that's your increment.
Okay, cool. One thing I'll add to that as well, your increment must be usable. All right? Your increment must be usable. You must be able to show to your stakeholders what you're creating. Get some feedback on it. That's the purpose of an increment. I did some work for a client in Lagos last year, and I won't mention their names. And they were using Scrum. And they were about 10 sprints into that project. But no one had seen what they were building. That is not Scrum. What Scrum tries to do is every single sprint, you show something that validates your progress. So these guys were showing us progress. We are 50% complete. We are 40% complete. Where's the damn product? Nobody has seen it. And that was 5 months into the project. No one has ever seen, and they give you progress report. So when they brought me on, I said, can we see the products? In my opinion, that was the day the project started. In my opinion. Because that was the very first time people saw the product they are building. I'm checking who's in this room because their guys are here.
Yeah.
I
think that's a great
yes, go ahead.
thing, right? So as Sam mentioned, working software is the primary measure of focus, right? So we need to really understand what working software was delivered to our stakeholders. Because as long as you don't have working software, that's not a primary measure of focus. So I would say have consistent demos and having the working software as a primary measure of success is one of the key factors in Scrum.
Yeah, thank you. Any questions so far? Yes, please, can you, the microphone? Okay, there's one here.
I'm sorry, this seems I'm always having questions. Okay, so the question I have has to do with, you talked about sprinkle. So sometimes for me, or I don't know about others, but you talked about, okay, if you're talking about the particular sprinkle, let's say we're doing like a quarterly, we're tracking on a quarterly basis. And then I say that, okay, sprint goal for this particular sprint is payment integration. But the thing now is that in that sprint, I'm going to do payment integration. I'm going to do audio streaming. I'm going to do something like a loyalty bundle. Yeah, nothing like they have 3 different outcomes, which isn't necessarily just payment integration. And does it mean I must only put one sprint goal? Or can I put it as 3 items as our sprint goal?
Yeah, okay, it's good. Am I audible? Yeah.
Yes.
Okay, so there can be only one, or there must be only one sprint goal per sprint. So in this case, let's say you got 3 priorities, but what is that one thing is what you will define as a sprint goal, which is no compromise on that. Doesn't mean that you should not work on other things. As long as you are satisfying the key sprint goal, everything else, it will come as a list of other things and you can go and work and deliver that for task. But when you can't deliver that, your focus should be on your sprint goal first.
But that's the part that is confusing. What could be the T sprint goal?
So I can take the question a little bit better here. Okay. As Ravi mentioned, that's a great point. We should have one sprint goal, but typically in like real-time organizations, right, there's been a lot of pressure to have a lot of things. So when you do a voting system at the end of the sprint planning, the team should combine on what exactly is your sprint goal. And to your point, if you want to add 2 or 3 more extra things to the sprint goal, it's not a sprint goal, it could be a stretch goal.
In Scrum, formally, there isn't anything as a stretch goal. The Scrum framework recognizes what is one sprint goal, and that is your focus. How do you know what the sprint goal is? There's someone called the product owner. That's the person that is accountable for value. The person that represents the customer. And that person will tell you what they would like to deliver. So if they tell you there is this and this and that, I hear that. Can you pick one? So I would, let me give an example. And it is,
it's not, your answers aren't tying into what our reality is.
Yes,
and
yes.
It's not giving me
Are you a Scrum Master?
Yes.
There is work for you to do. Good. There are so many implementations of Scrum that is not Scrum. Okay, let me just say one more. Ravi is a very good product manager. Okay, very experienced. As a Scrum Master, your job is to cause change. I have been fired from contracts more than 5 times. You say stuff in a meeting, and next thing they deactivate your pass. Okay? Because I cause trouble. Oftentimes, organizations want to adopt Scrum but keep the culture. For Scrum to work, your culture must change. If you are tracking percentage of work complete, goals would not work. Goals will not work. So as a Scrum Master, the best engagement I have is where a C-suite brings me in, which means I've got the power to reorganize teams. If I come in from the bottom, it's frustration. All I do is task management. That's the honest truth. So, honestly, I've done Scrum for 21 years. Yeah? I have never met a perfect organization. Never. And as a Scrum Master, it's a tough job, I'm telling you. Christmas last year, I was so happy there was Christmas. There was no work. Like, thank God, I need to rest a bit. It is hard work. That's all I can say. But it is more than just what you're doing with the teams. If you are struggling to get a sprint goal, the question is, do you have products? Have you defined your product well enough? Do you want to add to that, Ravi? Do you want to add to that?
So I'm going to fundamentals now. So let's take game of football. Football, you know football. Can you, if I score a goal with a hand, is it a goal? It's not a goal, right? There are rules. Similarly, in Scrum, there are certain rules which we must follow. That is one sprint goal per sprint. That is it. But in reality, I agree. Like when you have a lot of things, what is the immediate step? So immediate step is still you need to go with that one goal, and you can put like a hyphens, like a practical way I'm saying. We also deliver these things. So other things. But when you are talking to your stakeholders, you are accountable for that main thing. If you are not doing that, then you are again scoring a goal with your hand. So which is what? Scrum is easy to understand but difficult to master. And that's a practice should come with that. We must respect the rules of the framework. If not, it doesn't work. That's why I always say whenever I train people around the world, leave, enter room I'm speaking, leave your organization knowledge in a safe deposit locker. Learn first what is professional Scrum. Then let's make steps towards it. And this is where you need to have support from the top level management and within the team. Then only it is possible.
Ravi, thank you. So we have a lot of questions. My next talk is called Building the Product Right. And I'm talking about Scrum. This year, I came to talk about Scrum. So I'll be in that room and I would explain what Scrum should feel like. I understand I feel what you're saying, honestly. Okay, someone said the last session was talked about something management.
Yeah, Seagull management is mine.
Seagull, okay. How do you go about managing when we have very complex management system? When all they want to see is results? Especially in a target-based business, whereby your target is not met, you have major challenges. Ravi,
Yeah.
1 minute.
Yeah. So Seagull management, but again I have to explain quickly what it is. This, some of people are not there. Quick one, Seagull management is for others. Like seagulls fly, they make noise, they do the bird proof, and the bird proof hits the ground. Similarly, your top level management, they come and they shout at you, they don't offer help. That is Seagull management. And now, I said like in a complex management, we have put for the thing what should be done, how you can cater. See, theory doesn't work in this situation. You can't say, you can't shout at me, you need to help. Your bosses won't listen. The only way to earn the trust is by delivering work. So whatever you got, first deliver that and then speak about the improvements. Then you are heard. Otherwise, the lecture theories doesn't work in a practical way. So to earn trust, deliver first whatever is given, your best, and then face the problems, then you may be heard. That's what I would say.
All right. Thank you, guys. I've been told that lunch is a bit delayed, so we're going to carry on. All right? Is that okay? Yes. Sorry, we are inspecting and adapting. Scrum on food. He's testing me though, but we are... Okay, you know what we're going to do? We're going to take all the questions, but please let's keep it short so we can at least give something. All right? As product managers, after we have delivered our major task for a sprint, I have noticed there are times where we do not have work to do, and then we try to pick another task while we wait on engineers, which sometimes deviate from the goal. What do we do in situations like this? Oh my God. That's a one-day consulting. Right. When your goal is delivered, I don't care what people do anymore. Think about it this way. You've worked with your stakeholders to define a goal. The goal has been delivered, meaning you have a working product. Why do I care what people do? However, in my experience, what I help teams to do is once you deliver your goal, then you can work on some technical tasks, some cleanup tasks, technical debt, whatever it is, but it doesn't matter anymore. With Scrum, what is most important is delivering your sprint goal. Someone also asked, how do you define a sprint goal? That is in collaboration with your product owner and the developers. Again, please don't think programmers. All you have to do is this week, this sprint, what should we focus on? For Scrum Day, we did it. We will come on a Sunday night, Monday morning, and I will say this week, my focus is I want to close out on speakers. I want to get everyone confirmed today. It doesn't mean the team is not doing anything else. But what is priority is that is the goal. So if I need help with graphics for what I need to do as a goal for the team, that takes precedence over what anybody else is working on. It means that once that goal is delivered, anything else is bonus. Does that make sense? Ganesh, you've got a question? Oh, wow. Okay.
I have this very innovative question. I'm exploring Scrum. How do organizations handle performance management as an HR where work is collaborative rather than individual? I think the team is the sum of individuals, right? And if the individuals can give their better aspects of better performance, we perform well as a team. Again, the most important thing is we fail as a team and we do success as a team based on our individual performances. So as an individual, we go above and beyond and try to perform our best. I think that's the best way to handle performance management. But in most of the companies, what they do is they set up goals and objectives for you based at the initial start of the year, right? What are your goals? What are objectives? What are your deliverables? What are your success criteria? What is your how you can define success? I think all these parameters would really help in making sure that Scrum is part of the performance management. But again, it can be very generic and it can be very specific to some of the companies that you're working. So if you need more details, I can answer it better one-on-one, but this is something I would like to explain to you in the best possible way.
Let me add more to that.
Sure.
Let me answer that a bit more. Most organizations, I think the product teams try to adopt Scrum. HR is probably left behind in most organizations, and that's a problem. As a Scrum Master, one of your jobs is to remove organizational impediments. You will only get the best success by partnering with HR. It is not easy. One of the best transformation projects I did was with BP. And the person that sponsored our work was the head of people and culture. So we were able to get more progress out of the project. You would always have conflicts. And as a Scrum Master, I advocate for the teamwork. What the organization wants is delivering outcomes, is increased revenue. And as Scrum Masters, as leaders, your job is to understand what the business management wants, give it to them, and then suggest better metrics with them. When I do work as a Scrum Master, not very often, when I do work as a Scrum Master, I don't spend a lot of my time with the teams. I spend time with the management, with the stakeholders, because they've got real concerns. Someone's managers want something to be done. And I help build a process so the team can deliver on those goals and what they really want. How much time you spend writing code is not what they care about, but it's their way of trying to get control when they are not getting what they want. So as a product team, as a Scrum team, I always say this to teams: if you can deliver on your outcomes, that pressure will ease off. I've done this so many years now. What they care is to deliver on their goals. We need to launch in a country we are launching. That's what they care about. So as you're working with the teams, make sure you spend enough time with the organization, with HR, with the line managers. All right? Someone said grooming sessions. Can you speak on it? When is the ideal time to groom? Let me tell you what grooming is. In Scrum, we don't have grooming sessions. We have what's called backlog refinement sessions, somewhere there. And it depends on your organization. What is it? It's a session where the team tries to understand the work that is coming up. They break it down, they add tests, they add scenarios, they refine the items in your backlog. It's like trying to understand, okay, what does this thing mean? You want to bring speakers from, what does that really mean? Tell me more. And you guys can discuss what it means. And how often should you have a refinement session? It depends. In Barclays, we had it once a week. I've had teams that had it twice a week. I've had teams that had it every day, 30 minutes. It depends on your own context. Does that make sense?